Coming off one of the most embarrassing losses of the Matt Nagy era, the Chicago Bears are going to be looking to rebound fast against Brees and the New Orlean Saints back home in Chicago this Sunday. Before I talk about this matchup, I want to talk about my sponsor for this video, DraftKings Sportsbook. A lot of you guys have been messaging me, asking me where I'm betting on sports, because I post a lot about my bets, my parlays every single week. I have a couple parlays going every single week, and I've actually been winning some of them too. So it's been a lot of fun betting on sports the past couple weeks and months, and a lot of you guys are asking, where do I bet on sports? And the answer, guys, is DraftKings Sportsbook. It's the #1 top-rated sportsbook app in all of America. So if you want the best of the best, DraftKings Sportsbook is definitely it. It's also based right here in the USA, so you can rest assured that your funds are going to be safe and secure with them. You can withdraw and deposit money at any time you want at your own convenience. So it's really fast, really easy, really simple to use. So if you are a beginner, I think this is definitely the app for you, because I also started betting on sports for the first time with DraftKings Sportsbook, and it was a really nice experience. So I would highly recommend downloading this app. If you want to download it, there's a link down below in the description box which you can click on to download it. And when you sign up, be sure to use promo code DaWindyCity. So guys, a really great app. I would not be recommending it if I didn't use it myself, which clearly I do because I post about it all the time. So head on over to the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now and check out all they have to offer, because they have a lot of different bets you can place, like live betting, prop betting, a lot of different stuff. So be sure to check them out. If DraftKings Sportsbook is not available in your state yet, be sure to download the DraftKings Fantasy app, because the DraftKings Fantasy app is also giving away millions of dollars of prizes every single week. What's up, guys? I'm back with the Chicago Bears weekly prediction videos. This time I got a Week 8 matchup against the New Orleans Saints back home in Chicago at Soldier Field. And man, I cannot wait for this game to start, okay? I'm counting down the days until Sunday because I so badly want the Chicago Bears to erase the stench of what happened last Monday night. Need I remind you guys what happened last Monday night? On national television for the whole world to watch, we got thoroughly dominated and embarrassed and proved every single hater right, okay? Before that game, all of us Bears fans were making fun of all these media dudes, all these people picking against the Bears. There were so many guys out there that are saying, oh, you guys are pretenders, you guys are going to get blown out. And in this game, the Chicago Bears proved every single one of our haters right, which is what hurts the most to see as a loyal Chicago Bears fan, okay? Because I really embraced that underdog mentality for that game. I really thought we were going to win. I even bought a freaking dog mask for no reason to wear in my video, but I wasn't even able to wear it, and it was just sitting there on the couch just mocking me and reminding me that we deserve to be the underdog for a reason, okay? Because we couldn't win a game like that. So if you guys think I'm pissed about that last loss, I definitely am, okay? I'm extremely pissed because that should not have happened in year 3 of the Matt Nagy offense. We still can't score more than 3 damn points. That's completely unacceptable. Now, what you guys have to realize though is that you got to keep things in perspective, okay? So even though that seemed like a terrible season-defining loss, it's still only one loss at the end of the day. And if you're hopping off the bandwagon right now, adios. We don't want you here anyways, because we're still 5-2. I would have killed to be 5-2 during a lot of the John Fox years, a lot of the other years. Being 5-2 is still a big deal, and we still have a chance to do great things this year if we can just clean things up on offense. So don't give up all hope completely. It was a terrible loss, but we can rebound in a big way against the Saints with the victory this weekend, which, by the way, guys, the New Orleans Saints, although a lot of people out there want to say that the Saints are an unbeatable team for the Chicago Bears, that we have no chance of beating the Saints at all, I'm here to tell you that that's not true in the slightest, okay? Even though they are 4-2, they have one of the best quarterbacks of all time, Brees. They have a defense that's elite in defending against the run. So they have talent on both sides of the football, and they're overall a very good team. This is not that unbeatable, dominant team that I thought it was going to be going into this year, okay? They only have a +6 point differential. They've been barely scraping by a lot of their victories, okay? Last weekend against the Panthers, they only won that game by a field goal. Against the Chargers the week before, they barely beat Justin Herbert, the rookie, in overtime, and they had to come back from being down 17 points. So all I'm trying to say is that just like the Chicago Bears, they've barely won their games and they haven't looked dominant at all. So if you're going to criticize the Bears for barely winning our games, also criticize the New Orleans Saints. I think one of the biggest reasons why the Saints have not looked as dominant as a lot of people thought they would look is because they don't have Slant Boy in their offense anymore. They don't have Michael Thomas. For whatever reason, I don't know what's up with him now. You know, obviously he was injured at first, but then he got into a fight with a teammate and then he got injured again apparently. And according to, you know, the knowledge out there, it seems like he's not going to play against our team either because he's not playing in practice today on Wednesday when I'm recording this. And a lot of people out there think he's going to be out for week 8. So fingers crossed, man, Slant Boy stays out against the Bears because this is one dude that the Bears definitely do not want to face. And it's a dude that his absence is really negatively impacting the Saints offense. Even though the Saints do have a great offense still, it's missing that dynamic punch that comes with Michael Thomas. But like I said, I mean, even without Michael Thomas, the Saints offense is still pretty good. It's still good enough to win a Super Bowl. So we're not going to act like Michael Thomas is holding this team back from winning a Super Bowl. I think it's mainly the pass defense, which let me give you guys some stats on the Saints defense as a whole. So the Saints defense right now, it ranks number 7 in yards per game allowed. They allow 328 yards per game. They're number 24 in points allowed per game. They allow 29 points per game. They're the number 17 pass defense. They're the number 4 run defense. They're number 9 in DVOA, which is a stat that I'm going to start using a lot more on this channel because I think it better explains how a defense is, how an offense is too. Which if you're not familiar with what that is, it pretty much better measures like the quality of the yards you gain on offense and the quality of the yards you give up on defense. So like yards towards the first down are counted pretty much. So like, you know, 5 yards on 3rd and 4 are worth a lot more than 5 yards on 1st and 10. And it also accounts for like the quality of the opponent and a lot of other stuff. So it's a more like in-depth stat. Yeah, the Saints are number 9 in DVOA. They have a negative 5.7% DVOA. But one big area where they're bad is on 3rd down and also in the red zone. Okay, on 3rd down, they're the number 29 defense in the NFL. They allow 3rd down to be converted 51% of the time. And in the red zone, they're the worst team in the NFL. They allow touchdowns in the red zone 86% of the time. That is a massive number. So if the Bears can get to the red zone, I mean, they have a good chance, hopefully, of scoring a touchdown. A big reason for why their pass defense has struggled so far this year is that the number 1 coverage guy, LATTIMORE, he's been having a big regression so far in 2020. So he's allowed a passer rating of 155.9, 274 yards, and 3 touchdowns too, which are all among the worst among all the cornerbacks in the NFL. So having your number 1 guy picked on this often, it's never a good sign for your secondary. And all the other guys behind him, I mean, Janoris Jenkins is probably their best coverage guy right now. He's actually been having a pretty good year. But all the other guys like Patrick Robinson, Marcus Williams, Malcolm Jenkins, they've been pretty inconsistent so far. So they don't have the worst of the worst numbers, but they've been having some really bad games, some really good games too, but no sort of consistency so far in the secondary. Now, one area where the Saints defense is truly elite though is in run defense because, man, this team knows how to plug up the running lanes really, really well. They only allow 3.5 yards per attempt, the 3rd best rate in the NFL, and they have so many elite run defenders up front on that front 7. They have a guy like Cam Jordan who's been doing this for a while now, really elite against the run. He has 20 tackles, and by a lot of the metrics, he's a top 5 run defender now at the position. So getting past, you know, Cam Jordan, that's going to be tough, but also on the D-line, they have David Onyemata, who's been having a really great year so far. He's 6'4", 300 pounds, has a lot of strength in his upper and lower body, so he's going to push these guys back behind the line of scrimmage, especially with how bad the Bears' offensive line has been so far this year. So I'm extremely worried about that, getting past these guys, but they also have other guys on the D-line like Sheldon Rankins, Malcolm Brown, who have been doing this for some time now too, and it seems like everybody on that front 7 is a good run defender, so I just do not see how the Bears are going to run the football at all in this one, especially with how bad the Bears' offensive line already is, so it's going to be a challenge. But if I look at the Saints pass rush, I mean, it's pretty mediocre so far. So they have one guy, Trey Hendrickson, a DE, who has 4.5 sacks, but beyond that, they have Cam Jordan having 1.5 sacks, but everybody else has been pretty mediocre so far. They have a decent amount of pressures, but they're not getting to the quarterback at such an elite rate. They only have 2.3 sacks per game. Let me talk about the Saints offense now. So the Saints offense, according to yards, they're number 11 in the NFL. They average 384.5 yards per game. They're number 7 in points per game. They average 30 points per game. They're number 9 in passing offense, number 14 in rushing offense, According to DVOA, they're number 7 in the NFL. They have a DVOA of 11.1%. In the red zone, they're number 9 in the NFL, so they score a touchdown 68% of the time. And they also have a very well-balanced offense between the run and the pass. So that's something that really benefits a quarterback like Drew Brees, because they're able to get their play-action game going pretty well every single game. They run the football 28.2 times per game, and they pass the football 35.8 times per game. So pretty much as well-balanced as you can possibly get in today's NFL. Now, in yards per completion, though, this offense is 23rd in the NFL. So they don't average a lot of yards for every pass completion, which makes a lot of sense with a quarterback like Drew Brees. I mean, this is the standard Drew Brees offense we have seen over the past decade plus. It's a lot of slants, a lot of, route concepts that only go, between 5 or 10 yards, but they end up adding up and give this offense a lot of success long term, because they also have a lot of time in possession every single game with the long sustaining drives that Drew Brees builds every single week. So if I look at Drew Brees' stats right now, man, they're among the best in the NFL. When you look at completion percentage, when you look at passer rating, I mean, these are things that Drew Brees does every single year, and it's no different right now. He's passed for 1,618 passing yards. He has 11 passing touchdowns, only 3 interceptions, passer rating of 105.8, and a completion percentage of 72.6%. Those are ridiculous numbers. Now, I know that he's not throwing the ball that far down the field, but if it works for him, that's really all that matters. If they're winning games, if they're scoring points, like, what else do you want Drew Brees to do? He doesn't even have his best guy, Michael Thomas. If he had Michael Thomas, his numbers would also look a lot better, because Slant Boy opens up a lot of things for the Saints offense, which, by the way, guys, even without Michael Thomas, man, they do have a lot of other talent on this receiving core. They have Emmanuel Sanders, Traquan Smith, the young guy, but Emmanuel Sanders, I'm not sure if he's going to play against us because he was injured recently, so I don't know what the deal is with him. If he does not play, then that's another big break for the Bears defense. But the best player on this receiving core is actually their running back, Alvin Kamara. Okay, Alvin Kamara actually has more receiving yards than any of their top receivers. He has 460 receiving yards, 3 receiving touchdowns, and a catch percentage of 86.8%. That's a pretty high catch percentage. I mean, Kamara is one of the best receiving backs in the NFL. That's an established fact. But this year he's been taking on a role even more than that of the wide receiver. So that really shows you like how multifaceted the Saints offense actually is. Okay, the running backs are as much of a threat to catch the football as the wide receivers, perhaps even more, which is not really something you see in most NFL offenses. So that's something that's pretty interesting. That's one guy, Alvin Kamara, that the Bears defense definitely does have to watch out for, because that's their number one weapon by far. And obviously on the ground, we know what Kamara can do as well. He's also one of the best running backs on the ground too. Both him and Latavius Murray combined actually have 629 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns. So they've been splitting carries pretty equally. It's a 1-2 punch, and it's been having a lot of success so far. So the run game is pretty dominant. The pass game, it's been working out too. And overall, the Saints offense is a force to be reckoned with. Let me talk about the Bears offense now. I'm not going to spend a long time talking about this because you guys already know my opinions on this offense, and I've talked about this too much already. So I'll quickly gloss over what the offense is like. We're number 29 in yards per game. We average 308 yards per game. We're number 27 in points per game. We average 19.7 points per game. We're number 25 in passing offense, last in the NFL in rushing offense. So we're the worst running team in the NFL right now, and we're pretty much bottom 5 in every single offensive category. And I'm not even exaggerating, okay? Practically every single major offensive category, we are bottom 5, like red zone percentage, third down, yards per play, DVOA. We're among the worst in the NFL because this Bears offense does not do anything well at all due to pretty poor play calling, but also a terrible offensive line. Okay, if I look at the stats, I mean, every single member of this offensive line is actually below average or bottom 5, which is not, that's like something you barely see. Usually you have at least one good player on the offensive line. This year, there's really not been anybody, okay? Jermaine Ifedi is probably our best guy right now, but even he is just average at the very best. We don't have any great or elite players at all. I swear to God, if Rashad Coward starts in this game, I mean, it's going to be the same story as the last couple of games. This dude is probably one of the worst guards I've ever seen play for the Bears. I mean, he cannot block if his life depended on it. So hopefully Coward does not play. Hopefully we get Sam Mustipher in there, because Mustipher actually looked a lot better than I initially thought. Okay, the offensive line did look a little bit better up front with Mustafa than it did with Cody Whitehair. So if Cody Whitehair does come back for this game, maybe put Cody Whitehair at center, put Mustafa at guard, or whatever you have to do, because you gotta shake things up at this point. Otherwise, the O-line is going to continue to stink as much as it has this entire season so far. And a big blow for this Bears offense right now is that our number one wide receiver, the guy that has over 50% of the targets on this entire offense, he's most likely going to be out for this game due to a concussion, Allen Robinson. So A-Rob is most likely not going to play. So who the hell is going to step up in his absence? I really don't know what the answer is, because we don't have any other guy on this offense right now that's been contributing as much as A-Rob has over the past year and a half. Rookie receiver Darnell Mooney has looked pretty good though so far this year, so maybe he could be an option that steps up in absence of A-Rob. I mean, Darnell Mooney's stats could honestly be double or more what they are right now, because Nick Foles has missed him so many times deep down the field. I mean, he only has 236 receiving yards and 1 touchdown, but he could have had so many more yards just based on the amount of times that a quarterback has missed him down the field. So if we connect on those deep shots, this could be a brand new offense, but so far, that's not really been happening. Let me talk about the Bears defense now. This is much more exciting to talk about than the Bears offense. So we're number 10 in yards per game allowed. We allow 342 yards per game. We're number 7 in points per game allowed. We allow 20 points per game. We're the number 8 passing defense and number 16 run defense. According to DVOA, we're number 6 in the NFL. We have a DVOA of negative 15.2%. We're the number 1 defense still in the red zone, only allowing a touchdown 42% of the time. So really good number there. On third down, we're phenomenal too. Number 2 in the NFL, only allow third down to be converted 32% of the time. And we allow a passer rating on average of 78, the 3rd best mark in the entire NFL. So there's not really much to say about this Bears defense that I haven't said already, okay? It's a dominant Super Bowl level defense. The only area where this Bears defense really does struggle, but even that, they don't necessarily struggle as much as other teams. They're just not as dominant in this area as they are in pass defense. It's run defense, okay? The run defense is mediocre in the NFL. Obviously, the 16th run defense. And last game against the Rams, we got ran over by Darrell Henderson and their other running backs. So we allowed like 160 plus rushing yards. That can absolutely not happen against the Saints if we want to win this game. I mean, our defense is the only thing that really keeps us in games. So if our defense is not truly elite, best of the best, we don't really have a chance to win many games. And that's a sad thing to say, because you would expect your offense to help out a little bit, but we just do not have that type of offense. So our defense does have to carry the load pretty much every single week. Tackling has to be a lot better. We have to wrap up around their guys a lot more, because right now we're only going for the big hit or the forced fumble, which is not something you should always do, okay? At some point, you have to wrap up around the guy and bring him down. Otherwise, you're going to be allowing a lot more yards after contact. So that's one area where the Bears defense can improve. But one thing that we can also switch up is that we can blitz a lot more, okay? Maybe not a lot more, but some level more, because right now the Bears are bottom 10 in blitz percentage. That's a good thing at the same time, because it means that we're getting a lot of pressure on the quarterbacks without blitzing. But I'm just trying to imagine like what this Bears defense could actually look like if we blitzed a lot more. The Steelers are top 2 in blitz percentage, and look at their defense. They're getting crazy sack numbers. Now the Bears are getting pressure, but we're not getting sacks. We're not getting the quarterback down into the ground. We're actually mediocre in the NFL right now. When it comes to our sack numbers, we're actually 16th in the NFL when it comes to sacks per game, which is not acceptable for a team that has Khalil Mack, Robert Quinn, AKIEM, HICKS. We should be getting a lot more sacks, bringing the quarterback down into the dirt. I'm not going to be satisfied with only getting pressure, because a lot of the time, even with the pressure, the quarterback is still completing the pass. So bring the quarterback down into the ground. With all that said, let me start talking about the matchups now in this game. What are the biggest matchups? Where do the Saints have the edge? Where do the Bears have the edge? And the first matchup I want to talk about is going to be ROQUAN Smith versus Alvin Kamara. I don't see Alvin Kamara being anywhere near Danny Trevathan, hopefully, in this game. Hopefully Pagano realizes that Danny Trevathan is nowhere near fast enough to cover a guy like Alvin Kamara when he does catch the ball, because Alvin Kamara is going to be in a lot of sets where he's going to be a receiver, a slot receiver. And at that point, you need a guy like ROQUAN Smith, one of the fastest linebackers in the NFL, to cover him. And can ROQUAN Smith handle the challenge? I think he can, because if you look at all the stats from this year, if you look at the tape as well, he's been one of the best middle linebackers in the NFL. He's been able to cover a lot of routes that most linebackers cannot cover. He has tremendous instincts, a lot of knowledge about the coverages, about where he's supposed to be on the field. He has a lot of speed as well, sideline to sideline speed. So this is a matchup that Roquan Smith should be able to at least limit Alvin Kamara in, okay? So Alvin Kamara is going to have a decent amount of receiving yards. He's not going to be completely shut out as a receiving back, but I think Roquan Smith should be able to do a decent job on him. Another big matchup is going to be the Bears receivers versus the Saints secondary. I already talked about how bad the Saints secondary has been so far this year. It's been their Achilles heel on this defense. And on the other side though, you know, the Bears receivers are also not lighting the league on fire so far. A lot of that does have to do with quarterback play and offensive line play. We're not getting enough time for a quarterback to actually deliver the ball to these wide open receivers, but we're not going to have our number one guy, Allen Robinson. So who is going to step up in his place? Is it going to be Darnell Mooney? Is it going to be Anthony Miller? Is it going to be a different guy like Javon Wims, Riley Ridley? I think we see a lot more playing time for Javon Wims because his physical attributes, his traits are the most similar to A-Rob, okay? He's a big body guy, he's tall, he has a lot of possession catching abilities, and if you want the same type of receiver that A-Rob is, I think that is Javon Wims because the limited time he's gotten, he's looked pretty good, okay? That's not been a lot of snaps, but some of his routes he's ran, they've been pretty good. He's been making some pretty crazy catches too, and he's just not getting a lot of playing time. So in this game, if he does get an opportunity, maybe he shines, like who knows? And all the other guys too, like Darnell Mooney, Miller, maybe Ridley too, they all have an opportunity now to step up and claim the role that A-Rob has left with his concussion. So hopefully one guy steps up. I mean, Mooney should have a big game too because right now he's getting the most separation per route among all the receivers on the Bears. So he is going to get open at some point in this game. The question is if Nick Foles can accurately deliver the ball to him. If he can, I mean, it could be a big day for Darnell Mooney. And the last matchup I want to talk about is going to be the Bears front seven versus Drew Brees. Obviously, it's going to be his O-line blocking for him. It's not going to be just Drew Brees versus our entire front seven. So it depends on how good the New Orleans Saints O-line decides to be in this game. But I'm just trying to say that Drew Brees, under pressure so far this year, he's actually been a pretty accurate quarterback. So he's the fifth best QB under pressure. He completes 64% of all passes thrown under pressure because he gets the ball off super fast. He has one of the quickest releases in the NFL, a beautiful spiral, and he gets the ball to the receivers in space, which counteracts a lot of the blitzes that he does encounter. So if the Bears, pass rush wants to get pressure on Drew Brees, they're going to have to bring him down into the dirt and get to him as fast as possible, okay? So don't be satisfied with only getting the pressure. You have to get your hands on him and bring him down to the ground. AKIEM Hicks, I'm looking at you right now, okay? You supposedly hate Drew Brees. You hate the Saints because of how they treated you earlier in your career. So this could be a big revenge game for AKIEM Hicks. And if he gets a lot of pressure on the interior, it's really going to disrupt things for Drew Brees and the passing attack. And also, get your hands up at the line of scrimmage. Bad passes down. That's something we did against the Bucs, and it's something we can do against the Saints as well because Tom Brady and Drew Brees are kind of similar quarterbacks. They have a lot of short passes going on right now, and they're not really throwing the ball deep down the field. So if you can bat these passes down at the line of scrimmage, that's going to help out your defense a lot. So as of now, guys, I'm not going to give the edge to Drew Brees or the front seven because I think it's going to be equally matched. Drew Brees, he's great under pressure, but the Bears pass rush has also been great at generating pressure. So we'll see who wins in the end. Finally, now it is time for my score prediction for this game. Who do I have winning this game? And guys, this is probably one of the most controversial picks I'll have this year, okay? I'll have a lot of Saints fans coming at me in the comments, a lot of Bears fans also disagreeing, but I actually have the Chicago Bears going into Soldier Field and beating the New Orleans Saints by a score of 17-14. And I already know what you guys are going to ask. Are you high? Are you crazy? How could you possibly pick the Bears to win? Guys, this reminds me so much of the Buccaneers game that we played just 2 weeks ago, okay? That game also came after a terrible offensive performance, which was against the Colts, and practically nobody thought the Bears had a chance to win. And just like we did against the Buccaneers, I think the Bears surprised a lot of people again and go into Soldier Field and get a victory against the Saints due to defensive dominance, okay? That's the only way in which I see the Bears winning this game. We're sure as hell not going to win a shootout because we don't have the offensive talent to do that. But if it's a low-scoring game, I do think the Bears can win. And I do think it's going to be low-scoring because just like what we did against the Buccaneers. I mean, this Bears defense knows how to play against quarterbacks that cannot throw the ball deep down the field. And that accurately describes Drew Brees. Okay, I'm not trying to disrespect this guy in any way, but Drew Brees at this point in his career, he's not the same guy he was like 10 years ago. He doesn't have the same arm strength. So a lot of the passes he likes to throw, they're only going like 5 or 10 yards. And if the Saints cannot really get those big plays like 30, 40 yards like other teams have, they're not going to have a good day against this Bears defense. And I think the pass rush can get into Drew Brees' face and force him into making a couple interceptions. I know I'm probably being delusional talking about that, but I definitely do think it is possible to some extent. Now, the thing is, though, guys, is that we're going to have to shut down ALVIN KAMARA somewhat, okay? We're not going to completely shut this guy down because he's one of the best offensive weapons in the entire NFL. But if you can limit KAMARA to having under like 100 all-purpose yards, that would be a job well done by the Bears defense. And it would limit a lot of scoring opportunities for the Saints offense. So hopefully our defense can get the job done. But what I'm most worried about, obviously, is the Bears offense. Can the Bears offense show up even against a poor pass defense? And I think they can to some extent. Okay, scoring 17 points, that's not really an offensive explosion by any means, but that would be an upgrade over what we got last weekend. I think they actually do get 2 offensive touchdowns and a field goal too, because the Saints defense is honestly not that good. Okay, yeah, they're elite against the run, but the Bears anyways cannot run the football. So we're not going to lose anything by not being able to run the football because we already cannot run the football. So this is going to be a game in which Nick Foles drops back and passes the ball like pretty much the entire game. And I think that going up against a poor pass defense, he should be able to at least get a couple deep shots going this game. At least one of them to Darnell Mooney, at least one of them to hopefully Anthony Miller. Like, there will be a couple big plays that we get going, and I think that we should be able to score off of them because the Saints have a terrible red zone defense. So I'm probably being a little bit too optimistic with how bad our offense has been this year, but I do think things will change in this game because it's not the same defense that the Rams were or the Bucks were. So hopefully we're able to get something going against this defense. My offensive MVP for this game is going to be rookie receiver Darnell Mooney because that's the only guy I see regularly getting open every single game. I mean, it doesn't matter who he's going up against. He has such tremendous speed and such an ability to get open and gain separation that he always has at least a couple plays where he's just wide freaking open. But our quarterbacks are not able to hit them. But I think that changes in this game because I don't know why, okay? I'm probably being a little bit too optimistic, but I do think he gets at least one deep catch in this game, so I think it's going to be a 50-yard touchdown. Hopefully, you guys come back and call me smart for calling this, but I do think either way, he has the biggest chance out of any receivers on the roster right now to actually get a big play going down the field with how inconsistent Miller has been and with how we haven't seen anything really from Ridley, and Wims has barely been here too. So I think Mooney is going to take over the role of wide receiver number 1 because I think he's ready for that role at this point in time with A-Rob being out. My defensive MVP for this game is going to be AKIEM HICKS because how could I not pick him? Okay, this dude badly wants to sack Drew Brees. He hates the Saints with a passion. I think that passion is going to show up in this game. He's going to be playing with fire, with pride, with energy, and I think this is one of those career games from AKIEM HICKS. I have him getting 2 sacks and a forced fumble too because why not? Okay, against his old team, against a team that he doesn't like, a quarterback that he doesn't like, he's going to have extra fire and extra hunger in his belly. But yeah, guys, that pretty much wraps up my video. I know that's going to be extremely hard to beat the Saints team. I don't think a lot of people think it's possible, but there is definitely a way to beat this team if we have dominant defense and also if we score just enough points to win against them. Okay, it's going to be an ugly game, but I do think the Bears can win. Okay, call me delusional, call me dumb, but hopefully you're coming back to this video next week and calling me smart instead because, man, I would love for the Bears to move on to being 6-2 and getting a big win against the New Orlean Saints. A big shout out to all my Hall of Fame members on my YouTube channel. So big shout out to Wyatt Freiberger, Keith Luckett, Stacks, Michael Horwitz, ACG, Ryan Pass, Scotty McLean. I appreciate all of you guys so much and the support you give to this channel. And if you want to become a channel member, there's a link down below which you can click on to become a member, get some extra perks, be entered in giveaways and stuff like that. So it's a lot of fun. Be a member if you want to, but leave your comments down below, guys. Let's hope the Bears win. And as always, bear down.